We gathered in the office the very next day, each of us eager to begin our investigation. Today's the day. Now, where shall we start? Let's go through the list of tenants first. Then we can decide. Hudson produced the list from her bag. Oh, hello. First, we have Mr. Curtis, who lives in the innermost room. He's a kindly old man who used to play with me a lot when I was a little girl. Of all the tenants here, he's lived here the longest. Very good. Has anything been out of the ordinary with him lately? With him? There is one thing. He's been a bit slow with paying his rent. Last month and the months before that one, to be more specific. Okay. I'll make a note of that. Hopefully I'll remember it's Curtis. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. What a cute picture of Miss Marple. I mean Miss Marple. Miss Hudson. Sorry, Marple. Thinking about it, I've yet to receive this month's too.
So he's likely having financial problems.
It's possible. Next, there's the avid traveler, Mrs. Blaw. Okay. She went on holiday to Italy a week ago and came back this morning. If that's true, then she has a flawless alibi, but we still have to see if she has anything to add whilst confirming her story. My! You're an excellent detective, Emily. You're leaving no stone unturned. Well, it isn't difficult to pretend that you've gone on holiday when you haven't. Even if she did, there's a chance she may have relevant information to pass along.
Precisely. We'll see if she's got anything to say, and hopefully in the process see evidence of her travels.
Lastly, we have Mrs. Atlee. She's very talkative, that one. I hear her husband's abroad on work-related business. Has been for some time. She loves tea, making sweets, and collecting tableware. Whenever I see her, I always end up staying ages because we get caught up in conversation. She collects tableware, you say? Does she know about your plate? Yes, she does. And I know all about her collection as well, of course. Okay.
Well, now we know who we'll be visiting. Any thoughts on who we should visit first, Emily?
Let's start with Mr. Curtis. I think we should pay Mr. Curtis a visit. He must know Hudson the best of the three, for one thing.
I've spoken to him a few times before, myself. I can't say I feel very comfortable around him.
Would you prefer to stay here whilst we go and speak with him?
No! I'm coming. It wouldn't be right to send 3 ladies off without a gentleman to protect them. My pride as a man won't let me.
I should hope not. We need our wall with us.
Not that again, Marple. Wait for me! Wait!
Poor Watson. Hello? Is anyone home? I rapped at the door. It opened soon after I heard a series of gentle footsteps, revealing a stern-looking man with a furrowed brow.
What business have you?
I hope we aren't disrupting you, sir. My name is Emily Whiteley, and this is Sarah Marple. Good day. We're in the midst of investigating the burglary that took place in Miss Hudson's home 2 nights ago.
We thought it might be best to begin by asking her neighbors.
Hudson then emphatically popped from behind me. Hello, Mr. Curtis. May we ask a few questions?
Oh, Miss Hudson. You're looking well. What is it that you'd like to ask?
Wonderful. First, did you notice anything out of the ordinary 2 nights ago?
I most certainly did. Around 7 o'clock, I heard the sound of breaking glass not once, but twice. The first time was fairly gentle, but the second was much louder.
And where were you at that time?
I should have actually... Can I go back? No, I can't. 7 o'clock. Glass was broken twice. Can I make a... No, I can't. Oh, that's too bad. Wish I could go back and add that. I'll have to just try and remember the old-fashioned way, I guess.
I was in my room reading. I'm not as sprightly as I once was, so I've not been going out much of late.
So you didn't go out at all that day?
No. Oh, am I a suspect? I was alone that night, so I have no alibi. But I swear on my life I didn't steal a thing.
We know you didn't, Mr. Curtis. We're only trying to see what we can find out. Have you noticed anything else strange recently?
Strange. Let's see. There was when Mr. Howard came to visit you, Miss Hudson.
He did? When was that?
A week ago, I'd say. He had mentioned that he had something he wanted to ask you.
That is awfully strange. I didn't hear from him at all last week. He came to visit her but left before speaking to you. I wonder what he wanted to ask her. Well, if you remember anything else, please come and let me know. I'm desperate to get my plate back.
Oh, I will. You always used to talk about it. I know how precious it is to you.
Okay, so he's familiar with the plate. Trying to be inconspicuous as possible, I chanced a glance at Mr. Curtis's hands. 2 of the fingers on his right hand are wrapped in bandages. Okay, we're gonna make a note of that. Well, thank you very much for your help. I extended my right hand to him, trying to act as naturally as possible.
Anything for Miss Hudson. I only wish I had more to say.
He took my hand and shook it firmly. Okay, so it's an old injury because he would have winced more. It is not fresh. We then bid our farewells, but not before he used the same hand to give Hudson an affectionate pat on the head.
He softened right up once he saw you, didn't he?
He did? See? I told you it was a good idea to have me as your assistant. Have you ever shown the plate to him before, Hudson? No. Why? Never mind. It was a random thought. So he doesn't know exactly what it looks like. Okay. Fairly certain it's not Mr. Curtis. How about Mrs. Blois? We went to visit Mrs. Blois' flat. I hope that... Is it Blois? It's not... It can't be Blois's. It's gotta be Blois. I'll eat my hat if it's Mrs. Blois.
Your room was vandalized. How that must have given you a fright.
That's not all. One of her plates was stolen in the process.
That regal Dalton plate, I take it. And a lovely one it was, too.
That's the one. But I'll get it back. I swear to it.
You really did boast about it to everyone who could stand to listen, didn't you?
True beauty needs to be seen by the masses. Mum always used to say the same when she was showing it off to me. Ah, she would be beside herself if she knew it's been stolen.
I do hope you find it. Really, I do. Have you thought to consult Holmes about it? He lives in one of your flats, doesn't he?
I don't need to. I have the celebrated Detective Emily Whiteley on the case. And better yet, I'm her assistant now.
My, aren't you one of Her Majesty's detectives? Miss Hudson won't have a thing to worry about with you here. You'll try everything you can, I hope.
Absolutely. That said, would you mind if we confirm something? You came back from your holiday earlier today, right?
Oh dear. Am I a possible suspect?
Not at all, ma'am. We're only asking around to see what we can learn.
Very well. Hold on a moment.
She then reached within her handbag for a boat ticket and showed it to us.
Here's something, if it helps. The outgoing journey was a week ago, as marked here, and I returned on the first vessel that left this morning.
This has an official seal and everything. It's valid.
Might we ask you one more thing, then?
Ask me anything you like.
Have you noticed anything strange or out of the ordinary?
Well, it's hard to say with having been away. The only thing that comes to mind is Miss Reston visiting right before I left. Was it, the day before? I hadn't engaged her in any way, only saw her from the window. Did she come to visit you, Miss Hudson?
She didn't, no.
Really? I assume she must have had business with you. I distinctly recall her standing in front of your flat.
I see. Thank you for your help.
We're just getting more suspects.
I'm glad to have been of service. Wait, before you go, I bought some almond biscotti for you as a souvenir. By all means, share them with your friends.
How sweet! You really do spoil me. These are meant to be dipped in coffee, aren't they? I wonder if they'll taste any good with tea instead.
Oh, I'm certain they will.
We accepted her souvenir, and then after bidding her a fond farewell, we stepped out of the room. Okay, I think we can easily rule her out as well. Which leaves Mrs. Atlee. Shall we go and pay the tableware collector, Mrs. Atlee, a visit? We arrived at her flat and were, with enthusiasm, hastily invited inside.
I assume you're talking about that Regal Dalton plate. The one with the floral and fruit design? Oh, it was so very elegant. I loved that piece with all my heart. Just thinking about it makes me want to gaze upon it again.
Okay, so she's definitely seen it.
And yet it was stolen, you say?
It was. It had to be one of my most prized possessions. She's not hiding how fond of it she is.
She seems a bit too fond of it, if I'm honest. Well, I can certainly understand the thief's feelings. How I'd love to keep it all to myself, or perhaps I can adopt you and obtain it that way.
You always say the most peculiar things.
Is it so peculiar? I dare say there are plenty who would trip over themselves to get their hands on a plate that stunning. Like that gentleman thief Lupin, perhaps.
Lupin? Coming here? What makes you think that? Might you be an avid reader of the London Sport as well?
Oh, are we a fellow fan? Then you must have seen the article to which I'm referring.
I'm afraid I haven't, though I see now how you two became such good tea-drinking companions. You think very much alike.
Mrs. Atlee, forgive me for asking, but where were you the night before last? My parents came here to visit, so I was with them. We greeted a police officer out on the street, as it so happens. I'm certain they would vouch for my credibility. So they would.
Would you mind if we asked one more thing?
Not at all. What is it? Have you noticed anything unusual? Unusual? Aha! I may have. I'd placed it about a week ago. I ran into Mr. Howard in front of my flat.
Okay, so 2 people have mentioned Mr. Howard.
Mr. Howard was here? Did you not meet with him? He'd mentioned he had something he wanted to ask you.
No, I didn't. He's not contacted me otherwise for a meeting either. So even though he wanted to meet, he came and went without doing just that? I wonder what he wanted to ask her. I took a cursory glance at Mrs. Atlee's hands. Her left hand's wrapped in a bandage. Thank you for answering so many questions, Mrs. Atlee. I attempted to extend my hand to her as naturally as possible. Thankfully, she extended her own without hesitation, shaking my hand with fervor. Okay. So also can't be a fresh one.
It was my pleasure. I only wish I could have helped more. You helped us more than enough. Have a lovely day, then.
We bade her farewell before leaving. Mr. Howard seems most suspect right now, in my books.
Lord, that was an experience.
After leaving Mrs. Atlee's flat, we all found ourselves feeling particularly tired.
Indeed, she is an unusual one.
You're the last one who ought to call others unusual.
Dang. Watson got a roast in himself.
Shall we go over what we know so far?
Indubitably, Watson. On the day of the crime, Hudson was out between 6 and 9. Mr. Curtis heard the sound of glass breaking around 7. He also claims he heard the sound of it breaking twice. The first time gently, the second time loudly. Oddly, whilst the room was left in disarray, the only things stolen were the plate and the broken glass from the window.
It struck me how everyone we interviewed knew about the plate. You must boast about it left and right.
Well, I love it. I can't help it. Still, Mrs. Blaw was away on holiday, and Mrs. Atlee was with her parents, so they both have fairly solid alibis.
Mr. Curtis's age seems like it'd make sneaking in through the window difficult.
Would you mind if we had some tea as we discuss Hudson? Right away! Hudson sprang into motion, was off in a split second.
The hardest thing to work out here is the motive. What reason would any of them have to steal just the plate?
That really is the question. Incidentally, Mrs. Atlee is aware that it's a counterfeit.
What? She is?
Yes. She's kept it from Hudson because she doesn't want to dampen her spirits, but she told me as much rather quietly when we were on our way out.
This is a conundrum, to be sure.
But we've established that the thief did not steal it because it was valuable, but because it was valuable to Hudson. So what is the relationship between Mr. Howard, and Miss Hudson? With all we know in mind, there doesn't seem to be a single one amongst them who has the ability and motive to steal it. The sound of tiny footsteps and clacking china approached. It was Hudson carrying a pot of tea and several cups on a tray. Tea is served. Thank you, Hudson. You're very welcome.
And here's another part of the mystery. Why did the culprit need to break the glass twice?
Yeah. I'm like, did he try to do it quietly? And then broke it louder so that the time would be like a different time than the time he actually snuck in? To make it seem like he was faster than he was? That's true. An experienced burglar could have sneaked in through the door without making a sound or broken the glass in one strike. Could they have lacked experience in burglary? What else could it be?
Also, 2 names came up during our questioning, didn't they? Miss Reston and Mr. Howard.
We looked at the list Hudson had given us. Neither of those names are on this list from what I can see.
That's because they're former tenants. They're on this list, see?
Watson presented the previous list again, and as he said, both names were on it. What sort of person is Mr. Howard? He's a sweet man who's always been good to me. Back when he lived with his family, they would often invite me over for dinner and the like. He and his wife divorced around the same time he moved, sadly. As far as I'm aware, he now lives alone. He asked me a number of times before moving out of here to tell me her new address, but she'd requested I not say anything. I'm sorry. It isn't as though I suspect him of anything. It's all right. It's your duty as a detective to suspect everyone, and as your assistant, I want to help. Thank you, Hudson.
What about Miss Reston? What is she like?
Her? I don't know her very well. We never spoke much, and she always appeared rather grumpy. talking to Mrs. Atlee about the plate once before, she'd mentioned Miss Reston expressed interest in it. One of her hobbies is making ceramics, apparently, so she was asking a lot of questions.
If that's so, she wouldn't be short of places to hide a plate.
Even asking about the plate is enough to arouse suspicion.
Then let's split up and question the two of them. We can get together once we're done. Don't stay out too late, all right?
Right. We can meet in front of the school since that's about the halfway point.
Don't go pressing them too much. If one of us is questioning the culprit and they realize we're onto them...
We'll be careful. Very, very careful.
I'm sure you will. But make sure we're together before trying anything dangerous. Promise?
Promise. All right, let's go. All right. I take it Watson and Marple teamed up? This will be interesting. This is quite a trip. Mr. Howard's home was situated on the outskirts of London and quite near to the East End. This wasn't known to be the safest area in London. The streets were plenty occupied by those with nowhere else to go. It's terribly gloomy here. Are you certain we're going the right way? Very certain. In fact, we're almost there now. As soon as we're in his house, we'll be safe as can be. It's just that I've never been in this area of London before. I've heard there were many poor and unemployed people here, but I never expected such a sight. Oh, of course. You're a noblewoman, aren't you? I should have considered that before dragging you all this way. Please, you mustn't feel guilty. Let's take the safest route we can back, however, if you don't mind. Agreed. Oh, look, Emily, I think that's it. With a bit more legwork, we managed to complete our journey through the maze of streets and arrive at our destination, a small flat that positioned itself just outside the edge of the city. There's a light on inside. Let's see if he'll let us in. Hello, Mr. Howard? Hudson knocked on the door. It opened, and from within came an elderly gentleman with a soft air about him.
Well, if it isn't young Hudson, it's lovely to see you again.
That's what I should be saying. It's been too long, hasn't it? He gave a pleasant smile as he caressed her head. She in turn seemed happy for the attention.
Is this young lady a friend of yours?
She is, and since we were passing by, I thought we might see how you're doing. Well done, Hudson. I gave her a subtle nod in approval, which she returned with a witty wink of her own. That's another one with an injured hand. His right hand's dressed in a bandage. Okay. It's a pleasure to meet you. I held out my own right hand to him, seeking a handshake. He didn't accept it. Rather, he simply pointed inside his home, kept at his soft smile. Inside his home, kept at his soft smile. Okay. Probably a fresh wound.
Would you like to come inside? I should think it easier for us to talk in there.
Thank you, sir. My handshake rejected, I lowered my hand back to my side. Did he not realize what I wanted? He definitely noticed me put my hand out, and it's only natural to shake another's hand in those circumstances. I saw his eyes look in the direction of my hand, of that I was certain. Perhaps...
I really am happy that you took the time to come and visit, Hudson. It's afternoon tea time, so how about we enjoy a chat and a cuppa?
How have things been for you since you moved? I was so surprised when you came to say you were leaving all of a sudden.
I suppose I did spring it on you, didn't I? You're still young. I didn't intend to cause you undue worry.
I'm a grown lady now, you know. It will take a lot to surprise or unduly worry me. Besides, I did tell you that you could always come to me if you needed help.
Well, I suppose you did. Things were a challenge after losing my job, but looking back on it now, all I can do is laugh.
Oh no, I've made an error. Sorry, what was I reading? Oh yeah, there we go.
Things were a challenge after losing my job, but looking back on it now, all I can do is laugh. Living on your own is oddly freeing.
Okay. I don't know why I have such a heavy finger tonight for, like, clicking ahead. Again, Mr. Howard affectionately patted Hudson's head with his left hand as he spoke, and she was more than pleased to indulge. Are you no longer wed? There was an underlying sense of timidness to my question. I hadn't known if it was even an appropriate question to ask.
I am. I lost my job, amassed a mountain of debt, and after a point, my wife had enough of me and demanded we go our separate ways. I've yet to see her or my daughter since.
His smile grew less genuine. They were both so kind to me. It's truly a shame.
All right, that's enough about me. Would I be correct in assuming this was no sudden visit?
I chose the words in my response carefully. So did he steal... Let's say it's him. Could his motivation for stealing her plate be to blackmail her for the info about where his wife and daughter are? Or ex-wife and daughter? Maybe?
Yes, sir. We came because we have something to ask. In truth, Hudson has been robbed. A piece of tableware she was especially fond of has been stolen.
That's terrible. You weren't hurt, were you?
None the worse for wear, thank you.
I'm pleased to hear it. Could it be that piece you've shown me before?
You know of it?
I do. That floral and fruit design plate, yes. The Regal Dalton one.
That's right, you remembered. Very suddenly, it grew dark outside. We could hear the rumbling of thunder in the distance.
Oh, look at that. The fog is rolling in.
The sun had been shining brilliantly till not long before, but looking out the window, it was now hidden behind the clouds and a light fog permeated the air.
Perhaps it would be best for you to get going before it gets any thicker.
I did so want to press him for information, but Watson and Marple will worry if we stay out much longer.
Miss Whiteley, is something on your mind?
Not at all.
Drat, I stammered. Hudson watched me with curious eyes while still sitting next to me, but I could do little more than return it with a weak grin of reassurance before averting my own.
No, we shan't press this any further. We promised Watson.
I do insist that it's nothing, and since we've some business to attend to elsewhere, we should be leaving now. Thank you very much for the tea, Mr. Howard. It was delicious.
I'm happy to hear that. Have a safe journey back.
After he saw us off, we began making our way to the meeting point. We hurried as fast as we could through the fog-shrouded streets. We spent more time out than we intended to. The two of us tried to make up for lost time by pulling up our skirts and rushing to the school.
Over here!
You took so long coming back that we decided to come and meet you. We did suspect this might happen, admittedly.
Watson! Marple! I don't know how you managed to find us. We quickly bumped into the very two people we were hoping to see.
We owe that one to Marple. She memorized Mr. Howard's new address.
I do apologize for worrying you so.
But we managed a nice chat with him. How was your visit?
Yes, well, she's moved out already, I'm afraid. And we don't know her new address.
We did have the good fortune of finding someone who helped her move. They were helping her move things at the exact time we believe the crime took place. 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And there are eyewitnesses who can attest to that fact. I think we can assume she isn't the culprit.
All in all, we were able to question the 3 current tenants and Mr. Howard. After Hudson spoke, Marple addressed me in a whisper.
I'll not mince words, Emily. Who do you think did it?
The most suspicious person is... no, not them. Yeah, Mr. Howard. He's the most suspicious. I think. I believe it may have been Mr. Howard. He appeared anxious when we brought up the subject of Hudson's tableware. And he refused to shake my hand. That's the most damning piece of evidence if I've ever heard.
Come to think of it, during the case of the Benjamin family, the thief hadn't committed the theft because they were in need. They were someone the family knew and trusted. Their motives were less related to money, and more because they wanted the family to owe them a debt.
So you suppose this case mirrors that one, then? That our thief stole Hudson's plate to put her in their debt?
Watson managed to enter the conversation without Hudson noticing. I was like, are we, not whispering anymore?
I'm thinking so, yes. Did you happen to see a pattern during our questioning? Everyone we met was delighted to see her. They all thought very well of her.
Watson, might I ask you a favor?
What is it?
When we're finished here, will you come with me somewhere? And Marple, can you see Hudson back to Baker Street?
Well, of course, but what for?
I take it you have something in mind, Emily.
I do. Would you?
All right. Leave her to me.